How did I start Overheard in New York? A few years ago, I was living the hipster lifestyle in Williamsburg. You know, I wasn't a hipster because I'd say I'm a hipster, and anyone who says they are isn't. So I'm definitely not. In Williamsburg, sitting in the Verb Cafe, and this true hipster was sitting next to me, speaking on his cell phone to his girlfriend. And he said to his girlfriend, "You ask me how I'm doing, I tell you, and then you bring it back to yourself. You always do that." I thought that was so funny and a perfect summary of every girl I've ever dated. that I said I need to start writing these down and capturing these and telling the world about these, and Overheard in New York was born. So the messy truth of building an ultralight startup is the problems that you solve actually aren't about money. They're about lots of other things. Well, what is all this messiness I keep on alluding to? I have a list of 5. I was busy scribbling before I started that I want to share with you. The 5 things I'm about to tell you, you've all heard from a lot of other people, from, I'm sure they're bloggers you read who've made similar points. I'm going to tell you the 5 hard things starting in my opinion, and then I'm going to translate it into the really ugly language that they never tell you on the fun blogs you read that make it sound like it's all nice and easy and fun. The first messy truth is you need to do a lot of testing. Everyone says that. Conventional wisdom in the Bay Area. Oh, get out there, measure, 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 see what everyone says. Overheard, it's grown out into an online marketing company. I do stuff for client, measure, measure, measure. It's kind of interesting. I'm nerdy, I like measuring things and counting things, so it plays in with my personality. So yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I love measuring, I love counting. Of course, the data will tell us what to do. The ugly side of that is what always happens is the data tells you stuff you really don't like. And dealing with that is hard. Hey, like, when I started Overheard, the website looked really nice. I love these professional, nice designs. It looked really good. Guess what? Testing, testing, testing. The data says, hey, people enjoy it more when the site looks a bit crappy, when there's like this blue background and it's hard to read. So guess what? The website looks a little bit crappy. Like, hey, if people like the non-professional look, if the site looks too professional, they'll think, oh, they're trying to sell you something. When it looks non-professional, I'm just a guy. I put it together. So if the data tells you do something ugly, do something ugly. But that's hard because when we build stuff, we want it to be beautiful. So there's this constant tension. It's all about relationships in the team. That's another conventional wisdom. You've heard it a million times. What that actually translates into in normal English is in order to build anything great, you need to deal with lots of really annoying people. Annoying on every level, from your vendors to your employees to your partners. Everyone has their idiosyncrasies. Oh, I'm sure you speak to anyone that works with me, they'll say I'm the most annoying of all. I'm not denying that at all. What I am saying is from each of our perspectives, you can't build something in a bubble. You need to work with other people in order to build something big. There's a very low ceiling when you do it all alone, and everyone has their idiosyncrasies, to say it in a very euphemistic way. And like, oh yeah, I can deal with people's idiosyncrasies. The ugly truth is, you're working with these people, and like, your attitude is this. Like, your mind is there. Your mind is here. Their mind is there, and you're like this, and this comes out in very frustrating ways. A third piece of conventional wisdom is you always need to reinvent what you're doing. Yeah. Change is good. Always improving things, taking advantage of the latest technology. In real life, that's actually pretty hard. Reinventing means, hey, we have this sunk cost. We spent all this time building this software, doing it this way, and now we have to throw it out. But you kind of don't want to. You spend all this time. You spend all this time on it. Sometimes to reinvent things. I want to do things in in a very low cost way. So one of my specific, I'm being meta now, but one of my specific low cost strategies was to do it in Argentina. So guess what? As a consequence of this, I needed to move to Argentina, or I spent a lot of time there. I spent my time between Argentina and New York. Like, hey, from my point of view, like, who would it rather be in Manhattan? But if this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. Another key to building an ultralight startup is morale. You need to keep everyone enthusiastic and excited. What that translates into English is most people you work with are going to be frustrated. Everyone is kind of frustrated and unhappy. Sometimes for reasons related to work, sometimes for everyone's personal life with the newspaper, and often I work with programmers where like we design a spec in this way, we realize we have to do in this other way, throw this new feature, throw this thing we want to add. So the programmers say, oh no, you should have told us this in advance. If you've built anything, you're all familiar with this cycle. And it's dealing with this nonstop frustration. It's like, how do you keep the morale high? It's harder than the money. And the final part from my start that you need for an ultralight startup, which is also free, everything is just emotional, is you need obsession. And singular focused obsession. I kind of didn't think about anything else in my life for a few years. What that translates into normal English is it's kind of not fun. You just want to like go on vacation, like go to a bar, have a drink and relax. And when you're so focused on what you're doing, on making a success, in my case it was just how can I best make zillions of people laugh in my twisted sense of humor. Like in theory that sounds fun, but in practice it's dealing with all of these details. So that actually leads to what the core challenge is, and the core challenge is while you're obsessing on it, on how do you make it fun, and that to me is the fundamental challenge, because in order for something to be successful, you need to do it in this long-term oriented way. Overheard was around for years. It started out as a labor of love, with my trying and testing and changing all these different things before anyone else ever heard of it, because I was able to make it fun, and I convinced myself that this would be a long-term serious project. So I was able to adapt to it, and that brings me to my final observation, which is it's something I always tell my employees, which is in order to build a successful company or website, we're in a race, but it's not a sprint, it's an endurance race.